श्रीमान वेंकटनाथार्य कवितार्किक केसरी वेदांताचार्य वर्ग्यो मे सन्निधत्तां सदाकृति श्रीवासरंग परकाल मुनित्रयाप्त लक्ष्मात्मरक्षण इत्युक्त्युगागमान्तम् आचार्य भक्ति परिपूत मनर्गशीलं गोपाल देशिक मुनिं गुरुमाश्रयामः पराशर मुनिं वन्दे कतपौर्वाण्यकक्रियं मैत्रेय परिपप्रच्छ फलिबध्याभिवाद्य च. So we have been blessed and fortunate to enjoy sage Parasara's Vishnu Puranam as narrated to sage Maitreya. So sage Parasara has been talking about the Srishti, has been talking about the Paratvam of Sriman Narayana, the Vishnu, his Jagat Karanam, how he is the creator of the entire universe, including the Sri Vaikuntham, how he becomes the primordial chief of everyone, all the Jivatmas. And we have also enjoyed the lineage of the Raghukulam. And now sage Parasara starts narrating Sri Krishnavataram. Of course, it is Parama Bhogyam to enjoy Sri Krishnavataram as beautifully narrated by Swami sage Parasara to sage Maitreya. So before narrating Sri Krishnavataram, Swami goes on to explain about the slokam sung by Bhuma Devi to sage Maitreya. These slokams are known as Bhuma Gitai or Bhumi Gitai. Bhuma Devi says, so many kings have fought over me, means for a piece of land, one king fights with the other king. He tries to conquer, he tries to invade. The victor and the loser both ultimately die, and only I remain, the Bhuma Devi says. Both the kings, the victorious king as well as the loser king, both of them ultimately die, and only I remain. What do they gain? Nothing. Why did they fight? None of them wants me. My father always used to say, when the two brothers fight over a piece of land bequeathed to them from their father, the Bhuma Devi laughs, the god laughs. When the doctor says, I have saved you, you don't have to worry, God again laughs. When a king sends message asking his enemy to accede a territory, to give back the territory because he is the loser, when the king sends a message to his enemy king saying that I have already conquered your land, you have to accede and give back your territory, I laugh, Bhuma Devi says, because I know neither of them will remain long enough to outlast me. I would remain here forever as blessed by you, Vishnu. I am overcome by compassion when I see them wasting their time fighting over territories due to the egoistic arrogance. Me, my property, my land, ahankaram, mamakaram. Even though we are not kings, we have the same attitude. Whether it is for a particular possession, whether it's on a chocolate which we are going to have, but somebody has asked for a half of it, we get disappointed. Due to the egoistic thoughts, we get all these things. Listening to the Bhuma Devi, Bhuma Gitai, one gets vairagya, the detachment from worldly things. And okay, so why this Bhuma Devi Gita was talked about by sage Parasara here? Because he is linking that to the Krishnavataram. Once Devas had a conference meeting in person at Mount Meru, because that is the tip of the Mount Meru is the Swargaloka. So Bhuma Devi went there as invited to the conference to complain to them about her sufferings. About her suffering. So, this is what had happened at that time. So, why this suffering? What is the suffering of Uma Devi? We'll come to it in a minute. So, we talked about the Raghu dynasty, Raghu Kulam, the Ramachandra Murti, the Srimad Ramayana. We talked about how Sharanagati Tattvam is so beautifully enshrined in Srimad Ramayana. It is not just that Sri Ramayanam depicts the Sharanagati Tattvam, the surrender to the Lord's lotus feet. It is basically Krishna who instructed us to surrender. Rama said, Abhayam sarvabhutebhyo datam yetat vratam mama. Sakriteva prapannaya tavasmi dicha yachate. Abhayam sarvabhutebhyo dadami yetat vratam mama. It is my vratam. It is my pledge, it is my vow to protect somebody and give abhayam to them, to give them fearlessness to them if they perform Sharanagati. If they perform Sharanagati once, whoever it is, whatever the jantu it is, abhayam sarva bhutebhyo, anyone, I grant them abhayam. Rama said when Vibhishana Sharanagati happened. But Krishna goes one step further. He never said, if they perform Sharanagati, I give abhayam. He said, you surrender to me alone. I would absolve you of all papams and grant you moksha. Do not worry. He gave a vidhi. He said, you shall do it. Sarva dharman parityajya maam ekam sharanam vraja. Aham tva sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. Who else can give such a clear-cut instructions than Krishna? Krishna is the one who gave to our dull-minded people like us, like me, to follow his instructions and perform Saranagati. That is why Krishna Avataram is glorified, and this Charama Slokam of Bhagavad Gita as beautifully instructed by Krishna is very much enjoyed by our Acharyas. So Krishna comes in Yadu dynasty. So Yadu, Yayati, King Yayati had 5 sons. Do not much worry if you do not remember the names. Yadu, Druhyu, Turvashu, Anu and Puru. Puru, as we have already seen, became the favorite of his father Yayati, and Yayati left the entire kingdom in the hands of Puru. So his descendant was Shantanu, who was the grandfather of Kauravas and the Pandavas. Shantanu. So in that we have Vishnu Vamsam. Vishnu was the father of 2 sons, one of whom was Yudhajit, his name was Sini, and the other son was Anamitra. So we have Satrajit and Prasena, which we talked about in Shyamantakamani Upakyanam. So here Andaka was the son of Yadavas, was one of the Yadavas, Andaka. And his descendant was Ahuka, whose son was Devaka and Ugrasena. Now we are talking. Devaka had a daughter by name Devaki. And Ugrasena, we know, he was the father of Kamsa. So this Devaki, who was given in marriage to Vasudeva. So who is Vasudeva? He is the son of Devamida and Shura. So when Vasudeva was born, there was music everywhere. The heavens made the music, and the celestial dancers danced in joy, because he and Devaki are going to be the parents of the Lord himself. Vasudeva was also famed as Anaka Dundubi, because he used to tame the elephants. And he had this Vasudeva had 5 sisters. Vasudeva had 5 sisters: Prita, Shruta Devi, Shruta Kirti, Shruta Sravas, and Rajadi Devi. And this Prita was given marriage to the Vasudeva's father's friend. So this Prita is also known as Kunti Devi. So Vasudeva's sister is Kunti Devi. She is the mother of all Pandavas, 5 Pandavas. So this now Vasudeva, Devaki, Kunti Devi have been pictured in this lineage. Now Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkrita dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, whenever there is a decline of dharma, I would appear every yugam and protect the sadhus and kill the evil. So he says, now it is time for him to be born. Vasudeva had 7 wives: Pauravi, Rohini, Bhadra, Madira, Rochana, Ila and Devaki. And 8 the sons of Rohini were Gada, Sharana, Balarama and others. Balarama is none other than Adishesha's avataram, Amsham, who was born earlier than Krishna. There were 8 sons born to Devaki, and 6 of whom were killed by Kamsa. So we know why Kamsa wanted to kill the 6 sons. Because when the Devaki was married off to Vasudeva, there was a voice, Ashariri, from the sky, which said, you are rejoicing the marriage of your sister, you fool. This woman whom you are taking to her husband's place is going to be the death of you. The eighth child born to Devaki, will kill you. And in a flash, Kamsa jumped down from his palace, from his place in the chariot, because he was the one driving the chariot. With one hand, he pulled his sister by her long hair, and with the other hand, he drew his sword out of the scabbard to kill Devaki. And Vasudeva immediately ran towards him and caught hold of his right hand. And he said, Kamsa, I know you come from the reputed family, the house of Shurasena, and you are a noble-minded prince. Are you going to lose your good name by killing your sister, a woman, especially when she is married off? You are a wise man. A wise man knows that death is born along with the birth of a man. Everyone is bound to die. So when a man is born, one thing is certain, he has to die. So it may be any time. It may be today, it may be 100 years from now. So why are you worried? You are worried about the children, the 8th child who is going to kill you. I would hand over every child when it is born to us. Do not lament, but do not kill a woman at this time. So that is how the promise was made, and the 6 sons were killed. So this is the way it happened, that the 6 sons were handed over to Kamsa for being killed by Kamsa then and there. And of course Devaki and Vasudeva were imprisoned and arrested by Kamsa, because he does not want them to go abroad and abscond somewhere. So to rid the earth of kings who were drunk with power, now Krishna wanted to be born. And for that we need to take up the heavens, what had happened there. So in the sky, in the heavens, the Chaturmukha Brahma was approached by the Bhumi Pirati. And Bhumi Pirati mentioned to Chaturmukha Brahma that she is terribly grief struck, and there is no way that she can get rid of her suffering, because the kings are horrible. They do not know how on earth to be noble, to be virtuous. They do not know. So how to get rid of this suffering? And she came in as a cow to Chaturmukha Brahma. And Chaturmukha Brahma took pity on Bhuma Devi, who was crying. The same Bhuma Devi who gave the Bhumi Gita is now struck with terrible suffering because of the torture, because of the non-virtuous kings, because of the Kshatriyas. And hence Bhuma Devi appealed to Chaturmukha Brahma to help her. And of course, immediately our Chaturmukha Brahma knew exactly what to do. He, along with the other Indra and other Devas, and along with Rudran, said, only Sriman Narayana can help you. He is the one who would appear every yugam, every kalpam to get rid of the evil from the earth. Whenever there is a issue or a challenge to the sadhus, he would appear. So we would go to the Milky Ocean, the Parkadal, and from the shore they cannot see, they cannot comprehend. He would be somewhere in the oblivion. Chaturmukha Brahma also, Rudran also, Devendra also cannot see the actual Ksheerabdinathan unless he blesses them with the Anugraham, with the darshan. So Chaturmukha Brahma prayed to Ksheerabdinathan. He sang, he recited Purusha Suktam. Sahasra Sirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapat. So when he recited the Purusha Suktam along with the Devas, he heard an answer from Ksheerabdinathan that he would appear as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. He would appear as the son of Vasudeva, Devaki, and would grow up in Gokula. And he wanted all the Devas also to be born in Gokula as the cowherd folks, as the cowherd children, so that he would have a ball, he would have a great leelas, and he would ensure that the Kshatriyas would be completely, the erring Kshatriya, the wrong Kshatriyas would be completely eliminated, the Asuras would be eliminated. The Kshatriyas need not be always good. The rulers many times go haywire. They become atheist, they become agnostic, they do wrong things to the public. And hence, the God only can save such people from these rulers. So Krishna had promised, the Lord Sriman Narayana had promised that he would appear as Krishna in Gokula. So Chaturmukha Brahma informed that to the Bhuma Devi and also requested the Devas to appear along with Krishna in Gokula. And of course, rest is history. We know what had happened. And Swami Desikan so beautifully gives a kavyam called Yadavabhyutayam. Yadavabhyutayam starts from the Krishna Avataram. And so beautifully he talks about the entire Krishna Leela. And he enjoys in Yadavabhyutayam Mahakavyam the Krishna's beauty, Krishna's avatar, Krishna's Leelas, Krishna's Govardhanagiri, Krishna's marriage to Rukmani, and the Shamantakamani, and the Kamshavatam, everything in such a poetic manner. Vedanta Desika mentions the first slokam of Yadavabhyutayam, Vande brindhaavanacharam Vallavi janavallabham Jayanti sambhavam dama Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. This slokam, the first slokam, very simple slokam, Vande brindhaavanacharam Vallavi janavallabham Jayanti sambhavam dama Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. That's all. Now, the seemingly simple slokam is extremely rich in meaning and brings out fully the glory of Krishna. It only means salutations to him. One day, I pray to him, I worship him, I salute him, who is born in Jayanti. Jayanti means the day in which Ashtami and Rohini join. That is called Jayanti. They simply say Gandhi Jayanti, Mahavir Jayanti, some Jayanti. That's not Jayanti. Jayanti means in a day in which Ashtami and Rohini are together, on which the Krishna is born. Krishna Ashtami. So Jayanti Sambhavam Dama. Vande brindhaavanacharam. The one who roamed in Brindavan. The one who walked in Brindavan. And Vallavi Janavallavam, the beloved Nayakan of Gopis. Vaijayanti Vibhushanam, the one who adorned the flowers plucked from the forest. When he was loitering in the forest along with the cows and calf, he picked up the flowers and he adorned. But just notice, in this slokam, there is no Krishna anywhere. It is all adjective. Vande brindhaavanacharam, Vallavi Janavallabam, Jayanti Sambhavam Dama, Vaijayanti Vibhushanam. The one who loitered and roamed in Brindavan, one who is the beloved of the Gopi, one who is born on Jayanti, on Ashtami and Rohini, and one who was adorned by the forest flowers. Because adorning the forest flowers as a cowherd boy, it depicts his simplicity. He is coming down to live with us, each one of us. His Saushilyam, his Saulabhyam, his Vatsalyam, and he being the chief, in spite of being the chief. So, Krishna is not at all talked about. His Vatsalyam, he says, because Brindhaavanacharam. He runs behind the cow and the calf in Brinda. In Brinda means the devotees, for whose protection he moves. Brinda Charati, for the protection he moves, so that it removes the fear in the heart of the devotees. Brindhaavanacharam. And Vallavi Janavallavam, the beloved of the gopis. And because of his easily accessible to even to the Gopikas, Swami, there is one Advaita, very staunch Advaita, and a very staunch devotee of Shiva by name Appaya Dikshitar. Appaya Dikshitar was a great Vidwan, great scholar. He looked at this Mahakavyam, Yadavabhyutayam, and he wanted to write a commentary on this most beautiful Mahakavyam, Yadavabhyutayam. And he was totally overwhelmed with enjoyment looking at this first slokam. The quality of this slokam simply swept his feet. And there is one more slokam, which is the 9th slokam in Yadavabhyutayam, which is Krida Dhulikaya Swasmin Kriparushitaya Swayam Yeko Vishwamidam Chitram Vibhushriman Aji Janat. The 9th slokam, he said, I can write pages after pages the commentary for the 9th slokam. And he did not proceed to write commentary beyond the 9th slokam. That's all. The sentiment expressed by Appaya Dikshitar is so testimony to the most exotic and majestic Mahakavyam of this Yadavabhyutayam. Even there in a Sanskrit class, they take this 100 verses of Yadavabhyutayam as one of the lessons. So Desika uses the Vallavi Janavallabam to express his Saushilyam, and Jayanti Sambhavam is the Saulabhyam, how he was born. It is interesting to observe that this Krishna Jayanti is so beautifully narrated by Desika in this Jayanti Sambhavam. You are the only one who is connected with Jayanti Krishna. And then he goes on to explain. So the literary work is the Grantham, the mention of the work, the Vishayam, the subject, and to whom the work is intended, for the poets, for the connoisseurs of Kavyam. And what is the palan, the fruits of this Mahakavyam? The Lord's blessing, the recipient of the Lord's grace by reading this Mahakavyam. So this Yadavabhyutayam is so beautiful that we would touch upon when we narrate the Krishna Avataram and when we narrate the Krishna Leelas. So the rasam, where the Nava rasam is so beautifully is there in this Krishna Avataram. The bhavam, the accompanying moods is also there. And the Desika says, I will now speak of the story of Krishna, which is the nectar emerging out of the ocean of Vyasa, the Mahabharata. And I would not hesitate to write this Mahakavyam with the Paripurna Anugraham of my Acharyas and Krishna. Because Ramanuja also says in Sri Bhashyam, Shruti Sirasi Vidipte Brahmani Srinivase, the Lord forms the crown of the Vedas. And so the story of Krishna is Sarabhutam, the essence of Vedas. So this is the nectar, this is the nectar, the Amritam. This is the Amritam which we should drink, not the Amritam which Devas wanted. And hence Desika says he is the Perumal as the Sriman along with Mahalakshmi. And Sadeva Saumya Idamagra Asit Yekameva Advitiya. Sat alone existed in the beginning. The Chandogya Upanishad says, one only without a second. And this Lord Narayana, the Brahman, was both the material and the instrumental cause of the universe. So he appears now as the Kutti Krishna, the son of Vasudeva and Devaki. With that, we would continue with the Krishna Avataram next week. Adiye. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. Acharyan Trivadigalesharanam. Dhanyosmi.